It's 2002, not 52, not 1952. This is 2002. And I met with Mabel. She said, girl, you better keep that hair. She said, you know, when people meet you, they remember. I learned something from every interaction. And I am blessed to have had people who would be straightforward and candid with me about my work and about running for mayor. So that brings me to where we are today. It is true that there's a lot of conversation about divisiveness. It is true that we would all like to be in control of the political offices that make public policy. But it is also true that we are not always in control and we're not always the majority. So therefore, what we have to do is to pull on our history and find exactly the ways that we have moved forward when we were not in control and not in the majority. And that also means that we have to not just have good messaging and a great agenda, we've got to have good allies. And we have to find ways to have allies that are going to help us to advance our cause without compromising our principles. Now that's the hard part, because you can always find allies, but you can't find allies all of the time without compromising your principles. And since we are here in part because we want to honor the contributions of women in America for most of American history have been property and have been viewed as property. And women have found a way to use their position, their experience, their talent, their network to advance an American life in spite of the lack of control of everything. Now, that does not mean that men haven't done the same thing, but we're talking about women right now. Women, African-American women and other women have found ways to change the course of history in the United States when folks didn't think it was possible. A group of white women went to the city of Atlanta and said, we want to vote in municipal elections before it was allowed by the law. Before it was allowed by the law. Now, they were not necessarily speaking for all women. But we know once the door opens and we see the opening, we can walk through it. That is the sort of creativity we have to bring in 2023. We have to find the angles, the areas where we can see the door open. So those of you who knew Maynard Jackson, most people think of Maynard, they have no idea he was 35 years old. He was younger than most of us in the room. At the time he ran for mayor, the senior leadership in the Black community thought it was too early. They don't talk about it today, but they talked about it then. They thought it was too early and that he should wait his turn. And a very powerful, brilliant, and creative, productive state senator, Leroy Johnson, was the preferred candidate among the business leadership in the African American community. Somebody ought to say amen, because this part of the story isn't told. Maynard had developed relationships with grassroots women around the city, largely Black, but not exclusively Black. To the great surprise of everyone, the business sector, Black and white, the more powerful folks who've been meeting, he had also also developed relationships among students and the women faculty and of some of the men faculty at the Atlanta University Center. And I don't think people realized he had been organizing for 4 years at the grassroots level, at the colleges, the universities, in the neighborhoods. To their great surprise, Maynard Jackson was the leading candidate because he had done what? Organized. He didn't just have an agenda. He wasn't just a brilliant speaker. He was not just a student of government. We've had people for years who are brilliant and wonderful experts in their fields. What Maynard did that was different between the time he was 31 to 35 is he had organized. And here's another thing that he did that most folks don't know. He came to Morehouse College at 15 years old, and he looked for the most powerful Black political leaders in the state of Georgia at the time. He got to know Grace Hamilton. He got to know Carolyn Long Banks' family, her father. He got to know all the elders. And they taught him while he was going to school. So by the time he was running, he had already a network of people because he had helped to organize. Now, some of you might have met him then, or your parents or family and friend. I know Roger did back in those days. So in my opinion, what is missing is we know the answers. We got the analysis. We know the problem. We know the answers or some of the solutions. And for those who think we don't have the resources, I beg to differ. We have the resources, sometimes money, sometimes even other opportunity. What we don't have is organization. And the caucus is key to us having the organization that is going to change the lives and the opportunities of people in Georgia. The stronger the caucus is, the broader its support, the deeper its support, the more willingness of the caucus to network and to find alliances and to be an ally, as well as to have allies, is the way we're going to address the issues. And so I know you want to know what I think the issues are. Well, I wouldn't be here if I didn't talk a little bit about water. Those of you who know me know that I believe the environment, environmental issues, climate change has got to be on our top list if we intend to survive. And Mayor Ingram is here, and as soon as I saw her, I said, I heard you had flooding in East Point. She said, huh? I said, you know, I follow flooding and water. So I pay special attention to that. And many of you were helpful to the city in that regard. We have got to have climate on our agenda. I didn't say it has to be the top thing, but we've got to pay attention to the climate issues. In my opinion, just as we have race and gender and equity and voting rights, we have to have a lens on climate. We have to have a lens on climate. That's air, that's water, that's ground, that's earth. If we're paving, we've got to move to paving in a way that helps to preserve and improve the climate. We must do that. It's not sexy. We won't get elected because we do it. People will not like us. Nobody likes me because I raise water and sewer rates. Trust me. But imagine if we hadn't done it. Imagine if we hadn't done it. So when it was flooding in Atlanta yesterday, and my family and others were sending me video of the floods in Atlanta. You know, I wrote back to some of the elected officials. I said, that's very interesting. In 2003, when the Black Caucus was helping the city of Atlanta solve its water issues, I proposed 3 initiatives. Sewer separation, very sexy. Drinking water, a little sexier. Less sexy, stormwater utility. I proposed that in 2003. The council said to me, we'll do 2 of the 3. We didn't do stormwater. Now, I didn't know that. There were people who were giving us information that we needed to do that. We got the information. We turned it into a proposal. So yesterday when it was flooding, I'm writing little text messages. Y'all need to look at a stormwater utility. You need to look at a stormwater utility. And I had a big conversation out here with a business guy who said, well, that's going to cost money. I said, it's going to cost money when your building collapses too. You know what I'm saying? You get enough water and enough flooding, the underpinnings of buildings cannot withstand that, and they start collapsing. So we have to do climate, and my issue in climate is water. We have to do health care, all kinds, including mental health care. How many times have we watched the news and a mother has said, I tried to get help for my child. He either had to injure himself or injure someone else in order to get help. Mental health care, mental health access, assessment, and we have to demystify it. You could have overheard our conversation with the Honorable Gail Davenport. What were we talking about? Mental health, stress, the impact of stress on our lives, and how it limits our ability to move forward. So mental health is another that I hope that you will think about and have a lens to. This is not to diminish voting rights. This is not to diminish the importance of having education and truth in education and Black history and gender-based history. It is not to diminish any of those. The reason I add to the list is that we have to do all of it. This is not a one-shot deal. The significance of the song that we heard, Stand Up, is that is a song, as you know, written to celebrate Harriet Tubman in the movie. It is an appropriate song for a program honoring women, and I'm wrapping up. It is an appropriate song because Harriet Tubman had what? Courage, creativity, and a plan. Courage, creativity, and a plan. No one told Harriet how to free herself. They sure didn't tell her how to come back and free some other folks. Most of us would have said to her, girl, you are safe and you need to stay where you are. If it had been my daughter, I would have been saying that. You got your freedom. Don't come back down here looking for me. Most of us would have said, don't do that, but that wasn't Harriet. She was on a mission. She had faith, but she also had creativity. She did not let the obstacle of being enslaved limit her ability to think out of the box, as we would say. So she, I guarantee you, did not take the same route every time she came back south. She found another river, another creek, another way, because they were looking for her where she was the last time. So she opened her mind and her heart and found a new way. So she had creativity. And then she had the determination and the ability to do a plan, a serious plan. She knew that the folks who were with her were going to get scared. So she had a plan for that. You either going with me or you die right now. That's a plan. She's not waiting for somebody to get scared. She's anticipating it. And I dare say, I bet 99% of the folk went with her. They didn't want to die. They wanted to be free. So I use that. Stand up is exactly what we need to do. But we don't need to stand up by ourselves. We need to stand up together. The caucus needs to stand up together. The rest of us need to stand up with the caucus. Last story. When I was elected and I was at an event, a black minister who had supported one of my opponents, he was doing some really great work in the community. And he invited me to come to the dedication of a program. And this is a true story, 2002. And he stood next to me as the program was ongoing. And, I wasn't going to speak because I wasn't going to talk during the program because people would think something's wrong with that, right? So he started talking in my ear. He said, well, I don't know what we're going to do. I said, about what? These are his exact words. What if you do better than the men? I said, what do you mean by that? He said, what if you are better than the men? I was stunned. I mean, it never even dawned on me I was going to be judged that way. And I remember saying to him, kind of quietly, I said, here's my role as mayor. I can lead, I can stand next to you, or I can follow. The question is not who's at the front. The question is, where are we going and how the heck are we going to get there? That's my model. I don't have to be at the front. I'm happy to be in the back. I tell folk all the time, sometimes it's better for me not to be there at all because I might provoke something that is not productive. All I care about is where we're going and when are we going to get there. And I'm happy to celebrate from home. I'm happy to celebrate on the front line. I'm happy to be in the back or standing beside you. I don't know where I got that from. I suspect from my mama and my grandmother, but I pass that on to you. I don't have to be the one, and I hope you don't have to be the one. Being behind the scenes can be as impactful as being at the front of the parade. The question is, are you ready to do all three? You got to be prepared to lead, you have to be prepared to follow, and you have to be prepared to partner. Thank you very much.